All right, here's the EQ2 pedal by Source Audio. You have the 4 presets you can easily access. You can get 5, 6, 7, 8 by holding in another button. You can hold in a couple buttons and dial up all 128 presets, but that's certainly easier to navigate and create on the software on your computer and have that set up and ready to go. I have a couple of my favorite presets almost ready, so I'm hoping to just take out the PV head for some live jams. Yo, yo, yo. So that opening clip, I tried to show you how I would use the EQ2 to record some tracks. So I have a Susi LTD guitar with Fishman modern influence pickups going into Synergy system. That opening, the clean clips, I used the Vi module. Double tracked it for that opening one. I had a primary track, and then that was just a little bit to the right, and then I had a secondary track pans harder left and mixed down a bit, because that's how I usually would do it. And I tried to show the difference between no EQ set to 0, and I had to boost that level because it was quieter compared to once I put in my EQ treatment. That boosted the volume level, so I tried to even that out so you don't have that effect of louder is better. Try to get the volumes as even as I could. I thought the EQ tracks came out lively. Probably not the greatest tones I ever recorded, but I think it kind of showed you how you can really carve into it. Give it the studio treatment live in the room for live jams and shows. It would be awesome. So many features in that pedal. For this part of the video, I'm going to show you I'm hooked up right now to the PV Invective, the lead gain channel. I'm using the gate, which on the Invective is only on the preset side of it. So for this EQ pedal, I put it in, it's in the loop, the EQ pedal. So I'm using a little bit of noise suppression there to get it dead quiet. And, oh, it's not even on. All right, so let's see what it sounds like. This is dead 0, default 0. So you can hear it takes that extra hiss away. Now it's really dead quiet. I thought it was quiet. There was some hiss going on. So the gate on the Invective works really well, but it's in the pre section. You get it in the loop. If you really want that dead quiet sound, this will do it. It's a great feature. The only thing is to access it without this software. The software is great. To access it on the fly without the software, I have no idea how to do that. I haven't looked at the manual a whole lot. So that's the one drawback, but if you have it set up the way you want it, hopefully it'll work. I find a lot of times noise gates depend on venues and your amps and the gain levels and things like that. But if you can set it up ahead of time and know your environment, maybe you can get that ideal spot. In the studio, it's amazing. All right, so here is the sound with no EQ and noise gate. All right, one popular setting you would do, people say just throw an EQ in the loop and then just boost a little bit to goose that power amp. That's a popular approach. Oh, you can hear a little bit of hisses returned. All right, that sounds pretty cool. All right, now let's do another application. I would do what I call the Ride the Lightning bass boost. So Ride the Lightning Fleming, the producer, he really boosted the 160 frequency in the low end. So that's what we're doing here. I love this frequency a lot. And to do that, I also have to do a high pass. So I did a high pass around 90, right on 90 minus 6. Could probably even go higher, up to 100 or so. See, to carve out the super low frequencies. And then at 160, a tighter Q. And I played around with that, and I'm boosting it a whole lot, plus 8. I think that sounds pretty awesome. Oh, and I have the noise gate is up at -50 now, so I really boosted. Let's bring that back a little bit. All right, so that'll work. 50. Oh, it's not even on. Let's try it on. All right, there's the good sweet spot. All right, so another thing I like to do for my mid cuts, and this is why this EQ pedal is so awesome, because this software program here, if you look at the default, the graphic is the default settings for most graphics, 31, 62, 125, 250, 500, 1000. I tend to like I like the 160 for the Ride the Lightning cut, but also 400 I found is a frequency. When I had a diesel DMoll for many years, I love that amp. It has a mid-cut feature similar to the diesel Herbert. I found it was sitting at 400. The frequency was great, right at 400. So for here, I liked a little, I didn't pump that mid-cut like I saw a lot of people did, but I did dial it in somewhat. So I do a -3 at 400, along with the Ride the Lightning boost. Let's see what that does. All right, without, let's A/B it. Oh, I love that. I love that. It makes it sound sinister. I also have some other popular settings here. 500 is a default for a lot of EQs. I'll see if I can EQ it. There is a difference. You're really going to have to get your ears going for that. So here's 500. 400. 500. 750 cut. So I don't know if my ears are just really trained towards that 400 sound, but I love it. Just sounds more sinister and more angry. I love the 400. I don't cut it a whole lot. Otherwise, you hit the B's. Nobody wants the B's. So 400 is the sweet frequency. And then here's an interesting part of the EQ. You can do a phase flip. Or if you can hit that. So here is 400 cut. Flip the phase. Oh, wait a minute. I have some frequency cuts in there that changed it. I should talk about that. Well, here's the flip. So I think I'm going on the normal, not the phase flip. All right, if you notice up in the high ends of the frequencies, I have a couple cuts here. And this is something I picked up from back when I had an 11 rack, like, I don't know, more than 10 years ago. So everyone was trying to dial it in. The key to that piece, all digital, to get it sounding half decent, you had to get into the high frequencies, get the Q up cranked high, and then just sweep around, boost the frequency, and sweep around, find an annoying frequency. Once you find it with a tight Q, then you reduce it. And then that can give you a warmer sound, more analog, more tube-like. So I tried that. I try that from time to time with my tube amps just to see if I hear any annoying frequencies. And here's the interesting thing on the Invective. Check this out. This is crazy. All right, so I'm going to start back from scratch to show you what I'm talking about. All right, 8514 was what I had. All right, so the Q is maxed out. Hear that E going on? So you can really hear it right around that frequency there. It's pretty incredible. So for some reason, even though it's a super annoying frequency, if you just suck it all the way out, it kind of takes the life, but it still might work. I forget how much I scooped out, but I try not to scoop like too aggressively because for some reason those ugly sounds all add up in the big picture and sometimes are cool. You might not want to carve it out, but in this Invective, compared to other amps I have, I didn't hear something sticking out quite like that. So I did the same thing on 2 different frequencies. Let's pull it back up. I found one around 10,000 too. 10,121. So you just do a tight Q, boost the crap out of it, and just dial around on the frequencies until you hear something that's just piercing and ugly. This stuck out. I had 2 frequencies that did it. So now that I carved them out, here is the Invective with the high pass, the 160 boost, the 400 diesel cut, and then the 2 smoothing out frequencies in the high end. Here is it on default. I'll leave the +35. So that sounds phenomenal in the room. I like that. I'm probably still going to play around with the frequencies, but I'm kind of settling in here on the Invective. Each amp has its own thing. So some amps for the mid cut, 400 works well, 500, 750. You might want to dial that around. For this amp, I'm really enjoying these frequencies I selected here. So hopefully that helps people when you're dialing in with your parametric. That's what makes this EQ2 pedal such an improvement over the first version. The first version, you were locked into, here's the defaults. You were locked into the defaults, which were really cool, but there was no software program for it. And you were just locked into that. So now you can change those frequencies around, dial it in, custom tailor things to your own liking. Oh, let me show you the clean channel. The clean channel, what's cool about this diesel cut, it sounds killer on the clean channel. All right, so I thought the Invective clean was cool, better than okay. Let's go back to default. Like, not the greatest clean channel I ever heard. It's better than serviceable. Now let's do the treatment. I start getting a whole lot more inspiration with that. So what's really cool about this EQ curve, I like it for the super high gain stuff. I like it for the clean stuff too. Let's go to the middle pickup. Oh. That was pretty terrible chords. All right, so you get the picture though. So if the same EQ I apply with the high pass, the 160 boost, sometimes in the opening clip I had that 160. I didn't have it so massively gained up because when I was doing this chord on the low strings, it was a little boomy. So I cut that back down to like 3 or 4. I probably could have cut it down even more. But definitely the high pass, that 400 cut sounds beautiful. So you can apply that on your clean, and it's not that much different than what I would want on the high gain. One more thing, another EQ trick. Where is it at? The boost. So back in my MTS days, I had Gigmods, a Recto module with red and orange. And what was interesting, when you flipped it to the orange, it had these big full mids, and I just loved it for my lead tone. That was probably one of my favorite lead tones of all time. I don't know why I gave that up. I wish I had that module back. But when I was analyzing that, I realized that was at 400, which is really funny because for my rhythms, for cleans and high gain rhythms and so much stuff, I like to cut 400 because of the DMoll, the diesel DMoll reminds me of that. But for leads, that big Santana type quality, even though I like high gain, it has that vocal quality is actually for boosting 400 sounds killer. So let's do default, or no, let's go to the 400 cut. Oh. let's go to the boost. I'll go back to the cut. Let's boost it. So I could basically have one high gain channel and just have a cut for my rhythms and then boost it for when I want to do some cool leads. I'm imagining I'm playing a cool lead there. But I love that 400 boosted sound. I didn't raise the 160 too much. I put that just up a couple notches, but the 400 was key. I did that +5. And so they're the magic frequencies for me. So play around with your EQs. Doesn't necessarily have to be the EQ2. I love this pedal, but it's the frequency flexibility that I really love. The sounds out of the EQ2 are amazing. They're studio quality. I'm not sure how many other parametric EQ options you have with software programs. So Source Audio really has it all going on here with this software integration. So I can dial in my sounds. You have a quick 4 buttons right on the pedal you can access. If you hold another button, you get 4 more. You hold another button, you can dial up any of the 128. But basically, I'm trying to narrow it down to my top 4. So I have my high gain chunk. I have my solo. I have at least 2 that I need. And I'm not sure how many more I'll need for my live shows, if I ever get back to live shows. Thanks, COVID. Happy anniversary, COVID, by the way. All right, thanks for checking it out.